I've always known that social media is a quick dopamine rush, but I could never have imagined that my wife would become a social media addict. And worse, that I would have to look for her on the dirtiest streets of San Francisco because of it. But here we go again. It all started when Emily began to feel restless at her accounting job. She'd been with the same company for over a decade, loyal, dependable, and maybe too comfortable. But comfort started to feel like a cage to her. She came home more and more often with that faraway look in her eyes, the kind that said, "Is this all there is?" I tried to help. I really did. We talked about her passions, her dreams, and whether or not she could see herself doing something else. One night she broke down crying. She hated her job. She hated staring at spreadsheets all day. She felt like she was wasting her life. I didn't even hesitate when I told her she could quit. I told her to take all the time she needed to figure out her next step. Everyone in America knows how brutal it is to lose a job and then try to find a new one, especially after investing more than 10 years of your life in one place. But I told her I had her back, no matter what. For a little while, it seemed like things were getting better. Emily threw herself into her newfound freedom. She decided she wanted to become a lifestyle blogger, someone who could inspire others to follow their dreams and live their best lives. I was proud of her for chasing something new, even if it meant I had to foot the bill. New phone? No problem. Professional camera? Sure. A wardrobe overhaul so she could match her aesthetic? It was expensive, but I figured it was an investment. At first, it was fun watching her create content. She would get so excited when one of her photos got more than 50 likes. But the excitement started to fade when the numbers didn't grow as fast as she hoped. Her blog wasn't making money. She'd post product reviews and outfit inspirations, but it never really gained traction. I gently suggested she might want to explore other creative avenues, or even consider part-time work to ease the pressure. That's when things turned ugly. "You don't believe in me," she snapped one night when I tried to talk to her. "You think I'm a failure, don't you? Do you have any idea how hard this is? Popularity doesn't fall out of the sky. You have to work for it." I didn't know how to respond. Of course I believed in her, but I couldn't help noticing that her work now consisted of endless scrolling. She stopped writing blog posts and spent her days glued to her phone, flipping through influencer feeds and chasing trends. She'd get mad if I even hinted that maybe she wasn't as productive as she claimed. Over time, it got worse. She was always distracted, always looking for her next big idea. But instead of chasing those ideas, she just sat on the couch with her phone, scrolling and scrolling until her eyes turned glassy. Our conversations started to dry up. She was physically there, but mentally somewhere else entirely. I kept hoping she'd snap out of it. I thought maybe this was just a phase, a rough patch she'd grow out of. But as the months passed, it felt less and less like a phase and more like a permanent shift. And the worst part? I didn't know how to reach her anymore. I was walking down a dirty street and I was sick. Drug addicts, garbage, feces everywhere. Is this life? I thought. I wanted to find her as soon as possible. He said she was here. That asshole used her and left her. But am I a saint? No. I just still loved her. I wrapped my scarf tighter so I couldn't smell the stench. And I remembered how beautiful she was, how charming her smile was. Why did everything go wrong? I remembered that day. Something had changed in her. She said she had finally figured out the algorithms of social networks, but she needed to rest before the big start. In a way, I was happy about this, that she would come out of this social media coma, and then she said she needed a break, a real one, and booked a trip to the coast. A solo vacation. When she came back, she was glowing. She looked happy and refreshed, and I thought maybe this was the turning point. But something was off. Her stories didn't quite add up. She avoided talking about what she did there, brushing it off as just relaxing on the beach. And then the late night started. The secrecy. The passwords on her devices. I tried to tell myself I was imagining things, but deep down I knew something was wrong. And now, here I was, chasing leads through the worst parts of the city, trying to bring her home before it was too late. The alley I turned into reeked of urine and desperation. I kept my head down, pushing forward, scanning faces. I spotted the guy who had called me earlier. His eyes darted nervously as he pointed toward a rundown building. "She's in there," he muttered. I stepped inside, my heart pounding. The room was dimly lit and the air felt heavy. And there she was, Emily, curled up on a stained mattress, her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. Her eyes were red, but when she saw me, she froze. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. "Emily, we need to go home," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she shook her head. "I can't, not yet." And that's when I saw it, the crumpled wad of cash next to her and the texts lighting up her screen. Messages from someone named Maverick. I didn't need to read them to know. This wasn't just about social media anymore. Emily was in deeper than I had ever imagined. It hadn't started here, though. It began with her first vacation trip, the one she took alone. That's when she met him, Maverick. They connected online before she left, and he promised her the world. He told her she had potential, that he could make her a star. She believed him. She wanted to believe him. At first, everything seemed fine. Her blog began to grow and her followers multiplied. She was excited, motivated, and more confident than I'd ever seen her. I was proud of her. I supported her. But then things started to change. Maverick began asking for more. Photos became riskier, dirtier. He told her it was part of the process, a stepping stone to fame. She hesitated at first, but gave in because she wanted it so badly. She wanted the recognition, the adoration, the escape from her ordinary life. And the trips became more frequent, weekend getaways, then full weeks in different cities. I told myself it was work, that she was chasing her dream, but deep down, I knew. I just didn't want to face it. Then Maverick pushed her further. He started asking her to do things, dirty things. At first, she resisted, but he had this way of making her feel like she owed him. Like it was all part of the path to success. Little by little, he broke her down, and when she went to San Francisco, everything unraveled. Maverick introduced her to all sorts of unpleasant people, people who didn't care about her dreams, people who wanted to use her. She started drinking more, doing things I don't even want to think about. And she went downhill from there, but I didn't see her for a long time. She stopped answering my calls, stopped coming home. I couldn't get through to her, so I started looking without the police. I couldn't risk them scaring her off or making things worse. But it didn't take long to get on her trail, thanks to her blog. She kept posting updates, and each one gave me a new clue. A city name, a hotel lobby, a blurry street sign in the background. She thought she was covering her tracks, but I knew her too well, and I didn't like what I found. I didn't believe half the things I learned about where she'd been, what she'd done, but I had to keep going. I had to save her. I was still her husband. I went up to her and hugged her. She began to sob convulsively. I took her home. Even though I knew what she had done, I couldn't leave her there. Not like that. Not broken. Emily sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, silent except for the occasional sniffle. I wanted to scream at her, to demand answers, but all I could feel was exhaustion and heartbreak. I still loved her, even though I hated what she had done. When we got home, she collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "I'm sorry," she whispered. But I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. She claims it was a mistake, that she got caught up in something she couldn't control. But I don't know if I can ever believe her again. I've set up therapy appointments, and I'm trying to help her find her way back, but the damage is done. The wound in my heart feels too big to heal. I don't know what happens next. Maybe we stay together and rebuild. Maybe we fall apart. But for now, I can't walk away. Not yet. I have to help her, my dear wife.